So Xbox just dropped a brand new trailer for a game that I don't think anybody was expecting with their new title Aniimo. And I don't think I'm alone when I say that absolutely nobody expected this or the new ROG Ally that's set to come out for the Xbox. And I think if Microsoft has a successful launch with Aniimo, that it might actually put some pressure on Nintendo to develop something else other than Mario, Zelda, and the game that's probably the most relevant to today's video, which is Pokemon. I was actually watching Background NPC's video where she was talking about all the different reasons why she's done with Nintendo, and I think she put it the best. And it's that Nintendo has absolutely weaponized our nostalgia against the fan base. And with their more recent changes, the exclusivity of their games, their branding, and their licensing just makes this all more apparent. I think it was only a matter of time before other companies started testing these lawyer-infested waters, but I do think it's really nice to see that a massive conglomerate like Microsoft is taking the first leap and trying to do something new. In the long run, this will offer some much needed competition for Nintendo, but also it will be hard to sue them as time goes along. However, despite my excitement for Animo's release and everything, I do think that I still have some pretty serious concerns to bring up in today's video. Firstly, I think this game is just relying way too heavily on its appeal to younger kids. A lot of kids nowadays, they have Roblox and Fortnite, and they're absolutely glued to this stuff, especially for the new wave of iPad children. And while I generally think creature catcher games like this are very well received by multiple age groups, I do think you need a little bit more than very cute characters to pull more people in. But that brings me to my next concern, and that is the lack of greater purpose that I saw in the trailer in regards to the player themselves. Now, I know the game trailer is really just meant to give us a taste of the game design and overall, atmosphere of the world, but there just didn't seem to be much there outside of the fantastical world. One thing that really stuck out to me was the almost whimsical music that plays during the entire trailer, and oddly enough, it reminded me of a lot of those old Barbie ads that used to play in between scenes on Cartoon Network, and it just feels like the world is without threats, without challenges, and that maybe this game is more geared toward a casual or cozy experience, and that's okay too. But if they're going to make a big reveal like this and, put all this mystique around being a Pathfinder, there needs to be a greater reason as to why being a Pathfinder is such a good idea. And what was really odd was the fact that this really just fantastical music is still playing as the Pathfinder is being chased by this pretty obvious Charizard clone, I'm going to be honest, but it just didn't make any sense. They're obviously in danger, but now they're playing this, super upbeat music that doesn't really match the scene of what's going on. I was just a little confused. And really my initial impressions are that Aniimo is going to be more of a direct comparison to Palworld than it will be Pokemon. But I do think they still need to do a little bit more in the way of defining what a Pathfinder is and why that's going to be so significant. And who knows, hopefully they're just holding a lot of that to themselves, but only time will tell. And lastly but not least, my main concern with this game is the fact that it seems to be heavily graphically intensive. Recently, lots of games, to me, have been stretching the limits of current gen hardware. And I'll be honest, I really like this, but pretty game does not always equal good game. The main things I saw in the graphical department that really kind of put me on the fence were the extremely high density particle effects whenever they transform, and then the very obvious physics that were going on with the Aniimo fur. And obviously all the Aniimo won't have fur, but I think for the Aniimo that do have fur, that'll be loading in the background, rendering all those things like that, that could be really labor intensive for a graphics card or anything like that. So I just personally think that maybe they need to tone it down with that stuff. A lot of this stuff, it looks really great when you're sitting at your dual 4090 workstation as a dev and you're working on this stuff, but how does that translate to the player's rig? How does that translate to the player's console? What does that mean for the player experience? And that's something that always worried me, because they make these games look so good, and then by the time they get to us, you can hardly recognize what you saw. So that's going to be it for me today, folks. I really just wanted to talk about this game because it was one of the few games that I saw over the past few weeks of reveals and things like that really stuck out to me. Mainly because this is something that I could see Nintendo chirping about, or potentially, getting up in arms about a lawsuit. And I was thought to myself, even if they do go that route, it is nice to see someone really big who has the money and the connections and the lawyers to maybe fight back against that, offer some real competition. And maybe when they see that someone else can step into their arena and the creature catcher genre, you know, that Nintendo might step it up a little bit and give us some more original content, give us some more IPs, or hey, do something totally different with Pokemon instead of giving out the same type of game over and over and over again. Let me know down in the comments how you think the game will be received and if you intend on playing it at launch. I actually hope they knock it out of the park because it does seem like a pretty cool idea. It's like a Digimon, Pokemon cross kind of thing, and fans of both, so I'm hoping it turns out pretty well. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.